Okay, so this one will be for how to start to model your character. How do you set it up into using Photoshop, doing like the art, the concept artists, and after that, bringing a character that you can actually model into 2ds Max. So I'll go pretty quick because you've already seen this, but it's just for those of you who didn't see it yet. So in this case, I'm going to just remove my guidelines. This one over here. As you can see, I just created a small kind of a work area. In this case, I'm going to check it's the image, the canvas size, I could call it. Okay, so the canvas size, I made it 13 centimeters by 13 centimeters. It doesn't matter what size you put, but it's just that I would highly recommend to use like kind of a square because that will make it easier for you when you go to 2ds Max. It's going to show you which unit you should use. Okay, not unit, but size, sorry. So this is my canvas, and over here I have the dragon front view. So this is a very small character that I used before into a different project that I did for my own. So therefore, this is the front view, is what we call the T-pose. So you want to make sure that if you would look at this dragon right from the front view, this is exactly what you would see. Obviously, there's no textures. I'm just looking for the actual outline of all of his specs. So that's the actual front view. And then actually I did the right view. In this case, that's what it would look like. I don't even need to have the hands there, but it's just that just the size of the nose and all of this, which will be like the volume. Usually what I've done is just that I also, as you saw just before, I had my guidelines. The guidelines are there to make sure that when you have your character into any kind of poses, like the T pose, which is the front view, and also from the side view, you have them aligned close as you can. So therefore, if you have this right over here, you have this bottom of his nose, and you have kind of the hip joint. You have also the neck. If I go to the left view, you see like, yeah, that's like bottom of his nose, the hip joint, and then you have the eyes. So that's what you do. So I did crop it, okay? I used the crop tool, which is this guy, in order to separate them. So in the first part, it's just that I had my front view on one side, like over here, and then I did the left, and I draw the first one, the second one, and then I crop them to be all into one piece. I save that, go to File, and I go to Save As, and I save them as a JPEG because that's what 3ds Max loves to have. PSD won't work, so I use this one, JPEG. I already done this before. So now that I have that, you go into 3ds Max. The first part you want to use is just that you're going to create some planes in order to put that texture in. So if you use a plane, I'm going to use the front view because I remember like just did the front perspective. It doesn't matter what size it is right now. If you remember, I did talk to you about the size of 13 centimeters. So I'm going to use that and not in centimeters because 3ds Max, I don't want to set it up as centimeters or inches. Just take the default. That's the easiest way to do. But in here in the actual parameters, you have the length and the width. So after a little few tries, I did 130 and then I did by 130. So now why 130 by 130? It's because it looks really easier for me when I'm going to start to model. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to use my move. Whoops. I'm going to use my move tool. And I'm going to just eyeball it because you'll see later on why. Just I'm eyeballing it to make it like close to the actual grade of the perspective touching the floor. So that's one that I have. I'm going to use the actual rotation tool, and I'm going to create right away my left view or right view. Okay, so I'm going to toggle the angle snap. I'm going to use hold on to shift onto the keyboard, click and drag until I get a 90 degrees. So the main thing, as you can see, is that I can see it from the left side. That's what I'm interested in. And I'll make it a copy because you need to add two textures, one for the front view and one for the actual side view. And I much prefer to use two materials separately. So I'll make a copy of it, press OK. And then after that, you can actually just move them away if you want to. But I'm going to go and do I will add the actual materials to it, which is my front references and my side references. So I selected my front panel, which is a plane. I'm going to use the M key on my keyboard, or you can actually access the materials from these four balls. and I'll select one, and you can actually just name it, and I will select this would be my front, and I'll put ref just to make sure that this is my reference. Okay, and after that, I'm going to go into my color over here, which is like the diffuse, and I'm going to go and get that bitmap, which is the JPEG. Double click onto the bitmap to have access to that, and I'm going to, if I remember correctly where I put it, so I think it's into my animation, if I'm not mistaken, right of, whoops, where's animation? All right, there it is. I'm going to my scenes, and I think I do have it, nope, it was the other one, so just one more up, and one more up, the animation, this guy, and go to the scenes, and there it is. So that was the front view I wanted to have. Press open, and I'm going to apply that to my front panel. There is already applied, and I don't see now. I can see like there's multiple of those little guys. So you can always start with 100%, or not 100%, but 100 by 100. So it looks pretty good. It's just like, okay, is that going to be okay for me? But oh no, this is not really good because I have enough space on top, and it's like it's duplicating itself. So I did some tests and trial before. So I said 130 by 130. If you recall, those numbers are nice because that was the size that I kind of model or draw into Photoshop. And then after that, I did use a plane which was 130 by 130. So you see that kind of all match up together. After I'm done that, that's perfect. I'm going to do the same thing right away for my left or my right side. So I'm going to click on the little left panel, go into a different ball. So I'm going to go back to the parents right now, go to a different material, and then I'm going to rename this one, which will be the right, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Right ref. Go to the diffuse, click onto the materials, use the bitmap, and after that, use that one, which is the side ref. Press open, apply it to the side, render to the viewport. Once again, I know it's 130 by 130. That works better. And I press enter, and I can see that the main thing that you want to have in this one is this character is that you see the front of the nose is pointing towards this way. So if I go to the x-axis, it's pointing to the y-axis, and also the actual side view, it's pointing to the same direction. That's two important things. Now you can actually just move these guys away from the actual center of the world, which is the right over here in the perspective. That's this dot over here, that's 0, 0, 0. So in the X, Y, and Z, 0, 0, 0, because you want to start to build your character from there. Now, one thing, learning from mistakes, you want to make sure, repeat or rewind this part, you want to make sure that you freeze these panels so that you do not move them when you start to model. So in this case, I'm going to right click on this guy, first of all, go to Object Properties. In the Object Properties, you have by layer. Click on the by layer, and then you're going to have access to this show frozen in gray because you don't want it to be chosen. I'm going to show you what happens if you go to freeze first. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to say freeze selection. Oh, it's gone. You see what I mean by that? So you don't want to have that. You really want to see it while you start to model. So that's why I click on it. Go to Object Properties, by layers, show frozen in gray. No, I want it to see what is on that. Now right click, and now if I freeze the selection, you see, oh, I cannot select it anymore, so it won't move away. That is really important, and I repeat it again. Make sure that you freeze your references plane, because if you move that when you're midway of modeling, you will hate yourself. Okay, and this will be a pain in the butt. Don't try to fudge with it and try to replace it. It will be a pain. So I'll do that for the side view again. Object Properties, by layer, show a frozen in gray, no. And after that, right click on it, the computer set it to freeze, freeze selection. So now I don't have access to these guys and I can start to model. And usually I will do another video later on to start to show you what you need to be doing at first part. So therefore, that's the beginning of it. That's how you set up your planes in order to start to model. And on that side note, in the industry, they always have references before they start to model. So make sure that you have those references. And if you're not too sure about them, just ask me and I'll show you if I'll tell you if it's really good references or not. Hopefully that helps.